It's not enough for me to give you the characters and just ask you to learn them. In fact, I can't really teach you a language. No one can. It's really up to you to do the learning. All I or any teacher can do is give you material in a sensible order, tell you why it's important and how you should go about learning it. Every textbook or class out there will give you the same ni hao as your first word. I'm not doing anything different here. There's nothing particularly new. However, I want you to actually use your new language right now with a native Chinese speaker. This is very different to the traditional approach to language learning. Normally, a language learner will study material until they feel comfortable to approach a native speaker and strike up a conversation. Therefore, some people may go for months, if not years, before actually talking to a native Chinese speaker who is not their teacher. Teachers are really good at working out Chinese that isn't 100% correct, especially because they often know in advance what you're trying to say. Instead, I'm talking about talking with a stranger, a native Chinese speaker who you don't necessarily know. The problem with this is that some people never feel ready, they never feel comfortable. There's no set point of readiness because it's all inside your head, the head of the learner. It's about confidence and not really about your skill level. This actually leads to an additional problem. If a student has been learning Chinese for several months or even a year before they finally pluck up the courage to talk to a native Chinese speaker, then there's a chance that their first conversation won't go as expected and their confidence will be shattered. Imagine you've studied for a whole year, classes 2 or 3 times a week, and vocabulary study in your own time for 7 hours a day. After a year, you finally decide to talk to a native Chinese speaker. You pluck up the courage. Perhaps it's someone in the local community who you know speaks Chinese. Imagine now that they don't understand you. After a year, you try and you try, but you're simply not understood. The first conversation is a disaster. This causes a lot of people to give up and fall back on the same old excuse of, oh, Chinese is just too hard. Nobody can learn Chinese. The problem here is not that Chinese is hard, but instead that the student has been practicing the wrong skills. They have not been practicing the skill they want to use. If they want to be able to talk to anyone in Chinese, they need to practice doing this. It sounds simple, but many, if not most learners of a foreign language make this mistake. If you want to learn to talk to somebody, you have to practice talking with people. Instead, we study from textbooks. We learn grammar. We occasionally talk to a given teacher or maybe to other non-native Chinese speakers in our class, but generally we avoid anything that resembles talking to a stranger. Why? Because it's scary. We're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of looking foolish in front of somebody. Instead, our classes and our textbooks are a lot less judging than strangers. We have to get over this emotional barrier ASAP. In fact, we're going to have to do this right now. The earlier you talk to a stranger in Chinese, the less scary it becomes, the less of a big deal it is. Also, at this early stage, you know you're going to make mistakes and that it's okay. I mean, for some of you, it's day 1. It's earlier days, so making mistakes is fine. The longer you study, the more you feel that you shouldn't be making mistakes. But you will make mistakes if you haven't been consistently practicing speaking to strangers. It's a vicious cycle, and luckily we're not going to fall into it because we're going to be speaking to a stranger in Chinese very shortly. If you have an Android phone or an iPhone, I want you to go and download an app called HELLOTALK. It's free to download, it's free to sign up, and it's free to use. So really that you have no excuses right now. Get the app, fill in your details and specify that you're learning Chinese. Then simply do a search for a Chinese speaker. The search button should automatically bring up Chinese speakers if you filled in Chinese during your profile creation. Choose someone, anyone, tap on their profile and followed by tapping on the button that says message. Now tap the icon of a microphone and a recording interface will appear. tap the recording button and say 你好 and tap the send button. I want you to pause this video, stop listening to me, and do this now. The purpose of this short course is to actually be doing these foundational steps that are fundamental to learning the Chinese characters. It is not enough just to listen to me. Again, I cannot teach you the Chinese language or the Chinese characters. Only you can do that. And because only you can do this, it requires action and not just passive listening on your behalf. So pause me right now and come back once you've sent your first 你好 to a Chinese native speaker. Okay, how was that? Chances are you felt the pronunciation wasn't right, or that it just felt strange sending off a message to a totally random stranger. You know what? It doesn't matter. You've taken the first and the most important step you can take in learning Chinese. You've actually talked to a Chinese native speaker in Chinese. It doesn't matter how basic or even how badly pronounced the message was. It's the fact that you did it at all that matters here. If you're listening to this and still haven't done it, then pause again and go and do it, please. In the comments below, I'd like you to write the username of the person you contacted. These are all public usernames anyway, so you're not giving away any details, any private details about your speaking partner. The only purpose here is to provide proof to me and to everyone else taking this course that you've actually taken the first step and you've said hi. If this was your first time communicating in Chinese at all, feel free to tell us how it felt. Was it scary? Was it fun? Did you have any particular problems? If nothing else, it would be interesting for you to have a record of this first interaction that you can look back on in a few months' time when you've progressed further on your Chinese journey. Okay, one last thing. What if you don't have an Android or a smartphone? That's no problem. In that case, I want you to sign up for a free Speaky account at gospeaky.com and find a language exchange partner through that service. Again, this service is free, so there's very little excuse not to sign up and to perform this exercise. The only thing holding you back is likely fear, so go ahead and do that. Once you've signed up and stated that you're learning Chinese, you can use the live chat function to instantly find someone to talk to. HELLOTALK is preferable because it's more convenient on your phone, but Speaky is a great alternative if you don't have a smartphone, and that's fine. Whichever method you use, be aware of the fact that by going ahead and saying your first word to a Chinese native speaker, you, on day one, are months ahead of students who are just studying from textbooks and in classrooms. You've already made a much more drastic step towards spoken fluency by simply choosing to practice speaking ASAP. Tomorrow, in day 2, I'm going to show you how we can improve our skill set and start to write to our partners in Chinese. Writing in Chinese might sound scary, but I promise it's not as hard as it sounds. And remember that you today just spoke Chinese with a native Chinese stranger, so really you can do anything you set your mind to.